Greetings, friends. Welcome to our Sunday sit. I'm glad this is working because I just pressed go live and I got some crazy response from the realm of YouTube. So I reopened a tab and it worked. So we're off to a good start. Um, I'm just going to run through some Zazen instruction, get us started. So sometimes people will watch this on my YouTube channel after I've gone live. You want to just skip to the end of the Dharma talk, you can do that. Otherwise, our schedule today is I'm going to give some Zazen instruction, and then we're going to do one 25-minute sit, followed by a 5-minute rest kinhin or quiet meditative break, where you can use the bathroom or stretch, change the cross of your legs, and then we will do another 25-minute sit. And after that, we will have, I'll just give a little bit of a Dharma talk, maybe read a little something from my old ragged copy of Buddha is the Center of Gravity, a book of my teacher's teishos or lectures, read something from that, and I'll give a tiny little talk about Zen. And during that time, if you want, you can type questions into the message box here. If you have any questions or anything you want to share about your sit. Okay, so your phone is out of the room, I'm sure, and you're sitting in a space that's quiet, and you'll be free of interruption there for the next hour or so. Um, you can sit, and I'll show you what I'm sitting on here. Oh, you want to elevate yourself. So I've got two just regular old IKEA pillows, right? And then my friend Soshin gave me her meditation cushion before she went to Japan. So I've got these three cushions here, and they are elevating my midsection or my hips so that I can sit up straight. My knees are like the right angles of a triangle, right? And they're touching the ground. So make sure your knees are touching the ground. So just keep elevating your butt if you're sitting cross-legged until your knees are touching the ground. If you're really stiff and your knees can't touch the ground, then take another pillow and put it under the knee that isn't touching the ground, or both knees if they're not touching the ground. Sometimes our hamstrings and our hips are just really tight, but you don't want to sit with your knees off the ground. So what I'm getting at is a strong, solid mountain of a position, right? The body is really important. There's three aspects of Zazen. There's the body aspect, the mind aspect, and the breathing aspect. And they all come together through this posture. So you want to get the posture right. You want to take the right posture. Um, so once you're sitting on your cushion, now you can be sitting on a chair too if you've got really bad knees or something. Sit on a chair, just follow the instructions I'm giving. Have your feet flat on the floor. Don't sit back with your back leaning against the back of the chair. Just sit on the end of the chair. So many of us, or most of us, are probably sitting cross-legged. You can sit just cross-legged, which we used to call Burmese at the monastery. Then you can sit half lotus, which is right foot up on the left thigh, or left foot up on the right thigh, or you can sit full lotus, which is right foot up on left thigh, left foot up on right thigh. I've done all these positions. I continue to do all these positions. One is not necessarily better than the other. I have found, of course, that like full lotus is, I really feel like I'm in the seat of the rocket when I'm in full lotus. So it's not always possible to pretzel myself into that position, but I try to, especially for sits like this. So you're sitting on your cushion. Okay, your back is straight but not rigid. pivot your hips forward. So pivot your hips so that you get that nice curve in your spine. You want that curve in your spine. It's Chinese masters call chi, and the Japanese masters, I believe, call ji. I don't know what it is. It's above my pay grade, but your position, your seated position will have energy if you do it right. And so that means pivot your hips forward and get a nice curve in your back, like a sidewinder snake in the sand. That's how a friend used to describe it to me, and it's how I still use it to describe it to you, but it actually doesn't sound right. Pivot your hips, natural curve in your spine. Your nose and your diaphragm are parallel, ideally. Relax your shoulders. You have a mudra, which is right hand on the bottom, left hand on top, fingers lightly touching, just like this. And you hold this at your hara, which is your diaphragm, which is your tanden, which is maybe 2, 3 inches below your belly button. It's not really a place, the hara. It's more a description of what happens when your mind, body, and breath are aligned. But you put your hara 2 to 3 inches below your belly button, like this. Or you can just put your hands flat on your thighs if that works for you. Can rock forward a little bit and rock back. Find your natural center. Yeah. You see, as we start the sit, we bring this mind that's thinking about news or relatives or work or the rain or the sun or bills or ambition, sex, whatever we're bringing to the cushion, we're beginning as we take our seat to give all of that, our mind, to the posture. So we're paying attention to how we're sitting. And we keep our eyes open about 2 to 3 feet ahead of you with a soft gaze. So use your peripheral vision, which is to say soft gaze. We keep our eyes open in Zazen because we got to learn to work with our senses because this is how the world enters us through this and this and this and touch. And we can close our eyes and space out during Zazen, but we're going to have to open our eyes again and go out into the world and face it sooner or later. So we try and invite the world in, if you will, not push it out during Zazen. We try to sit with it, sit with the inside, sit with what's going on the outside. So soft gaze, 2 to 3 feet ahead of you. Relax shoulders, relax your chest, breathing in through the diaphragm, which is down, down, as opposed to up in your chest, which is shallow breathing. Breathing through your nostrils, your mouth is closed, your tongue is lightly touching the roof of your mouth. Breathing in and exhaling. I heard a Zen master talking recently, and he pointed out that we like to focus on the exhale in Zen. He said when you're doing athletic exercises, you're focusing on the inhale, but he pointed out, do with this what you will, that in Zen we're focusing on the exhale. Do that exhale completely. And when that exhale is done, the inhale will happen naturally. Exhale completely through the nostrils. When that exhale is done, you'll naturally fill with oxygen. You'll inhale. So we'll settle in now for 25 minutes of our first sit. I will start the sit with 3 bells, and then I will end the sit with 1 bell. I know there's, of course, a compulsion, bone deep, I find, to move once I take my seat. So assume the posture that you can hold for 25 minutes and you can commit yourself to and hold for 25 minutes, because what we're doing is we're committing to this posture over and over and over, moment after moment after moment during a sit. And of course, the mind is going to come up and we're going to start thinking. And then the practice is, when one becomes aware of this thinking, to give oneself back to that exhale, gently and completely, naturally back to the exhale. And take that mind that was thinking and just put it back into the exhale and into the posture. It's a really simple practice. It's not easy because it's hard to do simple things, because I think our minds are designed to look around our environments and find snakes and saber-toothed tigers and robbers and scam artists and opportunities, low hanging fruits, and et cetera, et cetera. So we're designed maybe by evolution to be distracted. So it's hard to just stay the course and do something simple completely, but that is the practice. So you're not doing it wrong if it's hard. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that after these two sits. But for now, just you can commit yourself to this exhale and let the inhale happen naturally. Hold your posture, and we'll do this for 25 minutes, followed by another 25-minute sit after that. We'll all be enlightened. One last thing, if you're facing your computer, go ahead and turn away from it so you don't have to look at the screen. So that's what I'm going to do. So we'll take a 5 minute rest kinhin or silent meditative break right now. You can stretch your legs or use the bathroom if you have to, and we'll start again 5 minutes for our next sit. Okay, start our sit again with 3 bells. So you can change the cross of your legs now. If you had your left foot up on your right thigh, now put your left foot up on your right thigh just to balance out your body. Most of us favor one way or another. When my left foot goes up on my right thigh, then I get usually my left foot falls asleep, but I still do it because if I always sit with my right foot up on my left thigh, I'm going to start to get there's going to be an imbalance, and it's going to probably at some point create problems in my hips. So change the cross of your legs, and we'll sit again for 25 minutes, give or take. Concludes our Sunday sit. I'll talk for just maybe 10 minutes now about Zen. I don't know if you all heard the bells in the background. I live in Vienna and they still have church bells here. It occurs to me that I'm doing these sits on YouTube, and my understanding is that artificial intelligence companies like OpenAI will just consume trillions and trillions and trillions of data points in order to grow their AIs. And they, I think, do image to text for YouTube videos. So what is it? What is the text that AI, the ChatGPT is being fed, if it's being fed these sits, when we're just sitting here and there's nothing happening? Is it like an ellipsis, a dot, dot, dot? Is it it just says nothing, silence? Can AI understand the gap? Can it understand silence? Does it know what that is? Is at some point, is it going to fall into the emptiness and get swallowed up? Is it going to become enlightened? Is it just going to crunch it as a data point like any other? Interesting question. Okay. Go ahead and shoot some questions in the message box here if you have any. I just want to share something with you. This is from, I read from this the last time. In the 70s, there was a foundation, I think it was in New Mexico, called the Llama Foundation. And they probably did like Vedanta retreats and yoga retreats and raw food retreats and Sri Baba Ganoush retreats and all that good stuff. And they hosted a session with my teachers, and then they printed this book out later on. It's so 70s, so hippie. Buddha is the center of gravity. And if you flip it over the other side, Buddha is not the center of gravity. And look at that moon and that star and that sun right there. Very 70s. But I love this book. I love this book. You can buy them online for like $400 because there's none, they're very rare. So during this retreat, 7 days, my teacher gave teishos, which are public lectures, where basically the Zen master wrestles with and illuminates a classic Buddhist text. And at this retreat or this Daiseshin, he was wrestling with or illuminating the Kyakujo's Fox, which is a Zen Buddhist koan. And at one point in here, he talks a little bit about a story around Kyakujo. Kyakujo was a Zen monk. I just want to read this to you. It says, Kyakujo lived for 95 or 96 years. My own teacher lived for 108 years. As I told you before, this koan is created by Kyakujo Zenji in order to teach his students. Kyakujo Zenji lived during the Tang Dynasty, that would be in China, which was an era of Zen flourishing in China. So there was no temple and there were no rules for a Zen monastery in those days. Really important. There were Zen masters in China hanging out, doing their thing, and students would come to them in the master-disciple dynamic, not the teacher-student dynamic. So the master-disciple dynamic, the master is going to do their thing, and you're going to learn by osmosis. Very different than the teacher-student dynamic, and very different than the American dynamic, which, as Brad Warner has pointed out in his videos, the American dynamic is often like patient doctor, heal me or teach me. But this is different. These guys, they didn't have a strict monastic system yet. My understanding is that Japan, the Japanese Buddhists, Zen Buddhists, took a lot of what is implied from the Chan or Chinese teachers and codified it, turned it into form, turned it into koan practice. So
teacher in China would just do something interesting. And then a student would write it down and then he would share it. And over the years and decades and then centuries, Zen masters would comment on it, sometimes give a poem on it. And then within the Japanese monastic system, you would memorize that exchange, go into a formalized interact into a room where you would engage in a formalized interaction with the teacher and express your understanding of this koan. So that's actually what koan practice is. But as Roshi says, my teacher says here, back in the day, there was no Zen temple, there were no Zen rules, there was no Zen monastery in those days. So so he talks about how eventually there came to be monasteries, and then you had to have rules. And Hyakujo Zenji, who's the teacher, he's Chan teacher, he's talking about here. Hyakujo Zenji came up with a bunch of rules. Anyways, so Hyakujo Zenji comes up with a bunch of rules. He's like the Zen master at this temple, and my teacher tells a story about him now. He says when Hyakujo was 90 years old, he was still working on a farm with the other monks. So they had a garden, basically. And his students, the monks, didn't feel right about this, right? Like this old 90-year-old man slaving away in his garden with us, forget it. So they hid his tools. They hid Hyakujo's tools. Hyakujo then hid in his own room and he meditated and fasted. And the students were worried about him because he wasn't eating. They went to the head monk and they told him of this situation. The head monk went to see Hyakujo. Uh, Before this head monk did not like the hunger strike and he feared Hyakujo would die. The head monk asked Hyakujo to eat and promised to cook whatever Hyakujo wanted. Hyakujo Osho shouted like thunder, "One day no work, one day no eat." So it's a very famous story in Zen. A day without work is a day without food. I bibliomancied this stanza here in this koan, this collection of Teisho's thing, which is to say, I just opened it up at random and I found this one, but it actually fits what I wanted to get at in this little brief talk today, which is already running too long. I finished up a retreat. Somebody asked me here. Somebody asked me how was my retreat. Yeah, I finished up a 2-day retreat recently. It was very hard. Thank you for asking. All these retreats are the same for me. The first third is difficult. I mean, it's just not, it's nature. If you take fire and you put it to kindling, there are going to be flames. If you take my butt and you stick it on a cushion, there are going to be flames up here in my head. Thoughts that I can't act on, a body that I can't move, rules that I have to follow, unlimited sleep, and I don't want to say bad food, but not food that I'm used to, no caffeine, et cetera, et cetera. Like Zen retreats are hard. The first third is always hard. Then from a third to 50% of the way through, it's impossible. And then usually about 50% of the way through a retreat, whether it's a 2-day retreat or a 7-day retreat, usually about 50% of the way through, things start to get better. So there's always a season for a retreat, the difficult beginning and it gets really bad and then it starts to get better. And usually I think it's just my mind and body settling into the cushion, getting used to practicing again. It's hard to sit. It's hard to sit. Like Hyakujo Osho is working until the day he dies. I'm really these days coming to the conclusion that like Zen is not something to identify with. Like I'm a Zen Buddhist. It's like medicine. That's what my teacher, my mentor used to tell me. He said, this practice is hard. It's like medicine, and I never liked that analogy, but I understand it a little bit better now. When I come to the cushion with expectations, I spend a lot of time wondering why those expectations aren't being met, wondering if my sitting is going right, being mad at myself that it's not going right, etc. But when I come to the cushion humbly, without these expectations, like Hyakujo, I'm going to work today. Every day, that Yakujo Osho went into that garden and worked with his monks. It's work. It's work. Um, I save myself time these days in terms of settling in to the sit. Um, because it's very simple. It's just committing again and again, moment after moment, to body, breath, mind, through posture, just sitting, Shikan Taza. Going through all this because some of you have a home sitting practice and you may not have a temple or a teacher that you're sitting with. So it's good to hear this stuff again. Um, I hope that was helpful. Let's look at some comments here. Thank you, Bernie. Benny. No work, no food, Taylor says. Indeed. Urban Flamal, good to see you, my friend. Oh, good. There's lots of people here from North Carolina and from Brazil. Yeah, I'm going to read you one more thing and then you can go. I've only got 3 more people on here. Final folks. My teacher says here, this is again having to do with the humbleness that a Zen master like Hyakujo brings to the cushion. My teacher says, this is my teacher talking now in this Teisho. He says, I suppose that in your life you have only met those religions that scratch the place where you cannot reach. Isn't it so? I never do that, my teacher says. I come to smash that kind of dependent mind. You do Zazen and it gets hard and you come to me and you ask for explanations. But if you have a dependent mind, you just need to get away from Zen and go to religions that will treat you kindly, but not to Zen. He says, you are not children anymore. I'll never be kind to you. You should walk alone and come to realization by yourself. And so I think in the end, that's one of the things that Zen practice has to offer, even though it's difficult and it's very, very direct. And it doesn't offer a lot of comfort food. It teaches us to stand alone and walk through this life in our own shoes and our own 2 feet and sit on our own butts on our cushions and own our own practices. And I do think, my experience, that's the only way. That's the end point for any religion. I mean, somebody asked me recently, "Are you going to do Zen forever?" It was a really weird question because I just thought, what? What else? What else? What else? I mean, I can find something, and I do different things. I do prayer practice. I'll do yoga. I do different things, but Zen is my core practice because in the end, um, there's nothing else to do except manifest the Dharma. And I think that Zen practice is one of the simplest and clearest ways to do it. But it takes work. Okay. Thank you, guys. Ciao. See you next time.